to the SEM NICE initiative for inviting us to this very interesting and important event. Dr. Bureau regrets that he couldn't be here today with us, so he has sent a video message. And before we roll that, what I'd like to do is provide a little bit of context to what you'll hear from him via video. You may have seen that the IEA has estimated that in 2018, emissions are looking like they will rise to historic highs. This stands in very stark contrast to where we see we need to be. So in a scenario that aligns with meeting long-term goals of the Paris Agreement, emissions need to peak by 2020, which, as we all know, is a very, very short time from today, and decline dramatically thereafter. This really reinforces the fact that where we are today, we are moving in exactly the wrong direction from where we need to be heading, This underscores the fact that we need all then, therefore, to be exploiting and taking advantage of the suite of low-carbon technologies and measures that are available to us, including, very importantly, nuclear technology. Another piece of information that came out just a couple of days ago from the IEA is that for the first time in 5 years, not only globally do we estimate that emissions are rising in 2018, but emissions in advanced economies are also rising for the first time in 5 years. So the progress that we have seen in decarbonization in the set of advanced economies has experienced a setback. I think this is a particularly stark message when we talk about nuclear power. And I do have a slide here. Is there a click? I have just one slide here to talk about where we have come today in terms of nuclear power development and our outlook for how it will develop into the future. So historically, we know that nuclear power has been a very important source of clean energy, not only for energy security, of course, but for low carbon power. And this is becoming increasingly important as the climate agenda progresses. Most of the capacity of nuclear power historically has been in the advanced economies, primarily in the US and the EU. But this fleet is aging. In fact, the average age of a nuclear power plant in the US and the EU is about 40 years, which is the original lifetime in many cases for some of these plants. And so without extending the lifetime of these plants, we'll see that they will be on their way out. So here we are in 2017. If we don't see extension of the lifetime of some of these nuclear plants in the EU and in the US and Japan as well, by 2040 we see the capacity of nuclear power reducing quite drastically. This is one direction. And secondly, we see quite a lot of change happening, and growth in particular, in China. So by 2040, we see China leading in terms of capacity of nuclear power. This, I think, sends a message related to my point about advanced economies experiencing, for the first time in 5 years, emissions rise this year. The fact that if nuclear retirements are reducing the share of low-carbon clean energy in the generation mix of advanced economies, then this makes the challenge, the climate challenge and the decarbonization challenge, even more stark, certainly not only for these countries, but globally. So with that, let me ask that my boss, Dr. Bureau, the IEA Executive Director's message be rolled.
I am very sorry that I am not with you in Poland today. But I thought I should share with you our views about the nuclear energy, especially nuclear energy in the context of clean energy transitions and energy security. Today, nuclear energy constitutes about 10%, only 10% of our electricity generation. And when we look at the trends, we see two opposite directions. Number one, many advanced economies, we see less and less appetite to build new nuclear power plants, and we see also lots of retirements of the existing fleet. But there's a second trend. We also see that some countries, emerging countries, China, India, and others are building several new nuclear power plants. In some, we do not expect with the current policies a major renaissance of nuclear industry in the next years to come. And we believe at the IEA that this may not be the best news for our international climate targets, including Paris, because nuclear energy technology is one of the very few proven technologies that can generate electricity without having an impact on the global carbon dioxide emissions. Almost every day, we receive a new report highlighting the growing challenge in terms of the global CO2 emissions. The recent IPCC report told us the very urgent task we have in front of us, reduction of CO2 emissions. But our numbers, the numbers of the International Energy Agency, highlights a complete different perspective. We have, at the IEA, we are a fortunate organization, we have all the energy data at our fingertips. And when I look at the data of the first 11 months of this year, I see that global CO2 emissions in 2018 will reach a historical high. This is very much in contrast with all the reports we get from different agencies across the world. What can we do? We have to look at the energy sector, because more than 85% of the CO2 emissions come from the energy sector. Therefore, without fixing the problem in the energy sector, we have no chance whatsoever to solve our climate problem. And how can we fix the problem in the energy sector? We have to look at the low carbon energy solutions. In addition to renewable energies, which are growing very fast, solar, wind, all good news, we also need other technologies, such as carbon capture, utilization and storage, and also nuclear power. Therefore, I am very happy that our colleagues, you yourselves, come together in Poland and discuss in COP24 the future of nuclear power. As International Energy Agency, after 10 years, for the first time, we are now putting a significantly important report together, which we are going to release during the Clean Energy Ministerial meeting in Vancouver in May about the nuclear power in clean energy transitions. This report will look at the nuclear in the context of climate change, air pollution, and energy security. Our aim is, ladies and gentlemen, to bring the nuclear power back to the international energy debate. And we are, at the IEA, ready to make our modest contribution to have a sustainable, secure energy future, and I believe nuclear has an important role to play to reach those targets. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I want to thank Caroline for your remarks and for bringing that video from Dr. Garol to us here today. I think so far we've heard some very valuable perspectives on the Nice Future Initiative, but I wanted to provide a little bit more detail, take a few moments of your time to explain to those who are not as familiar sort of the substance of the initiative. The Nice Future Initiative focuses on nuclear's clean contributions now and in the future, both for electric and non-electric applications. The Nice Future Initiative also focuses on systems approaches, including integrated energy systems like nuclear renewable hybrid energy systems. And this is really new thinking. The Nice Future Initiative envisions advanced uses and applications, including cleaner, safer, more reliable, and resilient energy supply for our world. It also offers solutions to tremendously important global problems such as access to clean water through desalination. And our panel that will come up in a few moments will talk about systems that would link an emissions-free nuclear power plant with variable renewables. And we see this as nuclear and renewables rather than nuclear or renewables. And I would venture to say that most people do not know that nuclear is the only realistic zero-emissions energy source that is capable of supplying the reliable quantities of heat energy on a continuous basis that's required by industrial processes. Small modular reactors, or SMRs, could economically provide heat and power for a range of applications, both on and off grid. Many people probably don't know that either. Innovative energy technologies may become an option to meet the needs of countries, regions, industries, communities that have never before considered nuclear technologies. We're thinking Arctic communities possibly. And again, this is really new thinking. Nuclear reactors can also economically produce hydrogen for fuel cells. They can provide energy storage. Each country we recognize has its own energy requirements. The vision of the Nice Future Initiative is to create a much larger menu of options for countries than has ever existed before. And we know countries are looking to develop their future energy plans and systems for the future. And as decarbonization becomes a goal for so many, it's becoming clear that large-scale power demands will require big 24/7 resilient energy sources to ensure uninterrupted energy supply. Nuclear is that source. So with that said, I would like to now invite our distinguished panel of experts to come up to the stage, and I will introduce them as they speak, so if you want to come up now.